stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the Man of Steel. I'm gonna rearrange your face if you continue to debate whether Logan's claws could pierce Steve Rogers' shield. I just couldn't care less if they bring back Kraven. And I don't care if Spider-Man's a clone. Stop spending all our cash on back issues of The Flash, or I swear to God you're gonna spend your twilight years alone. You can call them graphic novels, they're still just plain old comic books to me. And I don't see why you must always ceaselessly discuss the post-zero-hour continuity. For the last time, I will read those curvy X-Men. You know that I prefer the work he did for DC. And if you don't want to die, you'll lose that old Street Price Guide, Comic Buyer's Guide, and Wizard Magazine. But please get the new Invisibles for me.
Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great evening, and I'm really excited to see so many people already joining us this early. This is going to be a very interesting show. I'm sure all of you are going to have a great time here tonight. We've got 2 comics on the chopping block. Only one of them will survive. It's going to be Brand versus Brutus, grudge match stream tonight, so we'll see exactly how gentle our reviewers will be, although there was a little bit of bloodlust in the back room, so I'm thinking that this isn't going to be a nice review for one of these books. Somebody is going down really, really hard. So I won't spoil it for you. We'll get into the review, and all of you can see how strongly our reviewers feel when comparing these 2 books. First, let's jump into the chat. Let's say hello to everybody. So Wilberforce Wooster is already confused. So you know you're on a well-read stream when you're already asking questions about what's going on. Amit Reina, your money is on Brand. We'll see. It's it might be a safe bet, but we have no idea. Yeah, he's betting against Nasser. That's likely a good bet, but I can't guarantee anything. The reviewers have to have their say. Thanks God for this stream. Yes, we're all very thankful for the entertainment that we receive, Mr. Yanafui, particularly from your videos, which entertain all of us every night. So thank you very much for that. And Jabba's been canceled. So Jabba joins the group of victims that are in CG, getting canceled by SJWs left and right. He is now one of the fold. They drew blood, and Jabba's blood was spilled. So welcome, Jabba. Welcome to the victim club. Apparently he was a victim of Rey. Questions about Rey. Has she joined the SJW circles? One will never know. Hothead Studios, hail. Great to have you here. Thank you very much. Always great to see you. And Demented for Fun demands justice for Jabba. Yes, we all want justice for Jabba. Velned is giving a great endorsement of our monotone reviews. We try to ramp up the monotone and tone down the cadence. It's very, very important when you're discussing comic books to have very little cadence. And finally, Big Daddy. Hey, it's great to have you here. It's always a good time when you're around. Thank you very much for popping in. All right, everybody. So with that, let's get straight to the blood sports. One of these books is going to be struck down, rightfully so, deservedly so, and we want to satisfy the calls for blood in the audience. So without further ado, here are our executioners for the night. Please welcome Peeg.
Good evening, everybody. Hail and welcome to the chat.
And here we have Moonshine.
When did the dog get top billing over me?
He just was first in line in the little squares that I have to click. So, no jealousy, please. We're all friends.
I was a host the other night, Moonshine, so now I'm second in command.
If you think so.
Well, hopefully Moonshine will take over hosting duties for a future review of Beast Wars that I and Peeg will be discussing, while Moonshine...
Hold your breath.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we have two special guest reviewers tonight, so without further ado, please welcome Vicky.
It should have been ladies first. Hello, everybody.
And if it was ladies first, it would have been this guest reviewer.
Such a good joke I could have told right here.
You should have, Moonshine. That's what the monotone does to a man.
Well, our lady of the evening, please welcome Wiggle Wiggle.
Oh, thanks. I'm not stoned enough for this.
I don't think.
Me neither.
I don't think any amount of weed, no amount of weed will help you for one of these books, Wiggle. No amount of weed.
So because Wiggle only read these books once, we're going to have him do the review because he has the first impression reviews.
I think you needed to get drunk for this review, not stoned, Wiggle.
If you got drunk for this, you wouldn't be able to finish the book.
Exactly.
Well, at least one of them.
I think Wiggle finally found a book he hates more than Sea Dog.
I think I do. I think I did, and I'm really sad that I backed it. Well, I backed the second one, and I got book 1 and 2, which is not here yet. So.
Well, don't keep our audience in suspense. So, which book are you referring to?
Brand.
Brand.
Brand. I read that today, actually. I have no fucking clue what is happening in that book. I can't retain anybody's names because you get like a million names thrown at you like at once. So I guess this guy is part of a group of supernatural dudes with masks or something that turn into cars.
The Branded.
The Branded. Okay. And he controls bees, but not all of them do. There's a runaway girl that like pickpockets stuff and is underage, I think, or something. It's really confusing.
In the book.
Oh, look, Testifies here. He says, greatly looking forward to the stream. Love the show. You guys rock. Thank you, Testify.
So kind.
Biggest fan.
All right. Well, so first impressions can be murder. I get that you didn't like Brand. It was really confusing, but let's try to take it apart. There's got to be some redeeming qualities in this. The
art is good, I guess.
Well, what about the story? All right. So how many pages is Brand altogether? How much story do we get?
60. Is it 52?
52.
52. Is it coherent at all? Like, is it telling you a single story, or is it jumping around a lot? Why is it so confusing exactly?
A lot of jumping around.
Yeah, it's multiple storylines.
I would say 3. I would divide it up in 3 story threads.
Okay. And apparently the chat is fighting again, so this is definitely a well-read review. So
thank you for fighting, chat. When I get bored by these other reviewers, I read you, so keep the fight going.
Yeah, so we'll be throwing rare meat to you very soon to keep the bloodlust going. All right, so 3 stories. Now, are any of the 3 stories told well, or are they all just a total jumbled mess?
I would say 1 is told well.
All right. So tell us.
I want to see if the rest of the chat agrees with me, so I'm not going to say which one.
Okay, so tell us about the 2 bad ones.
Well, if I tell you about them both, they'll know what the third is.
The third one was.
Well, the only one for me, I can tell you which one there's only one that I could make sense of, and that was the girl's story from the very beginning.
There you go, bingo.
Yeah.
The pickpocket, how she's getting roped into some seedy underbelly stuff in Chicago.
Could that be because you have Dawn, Edwin, who's just kind of there, and Fame and Rita, and that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was
you can almost follow what's going on, and then a hint to another character, but only just briefly, and it's not a big part of the story, but
I feel like we're running off all over the place here at the moment. Should we give the audience a brief synopsis? What is Brand? Because I think that needs to be answered.
I
because-
think we should start with describing plot A, and then we'll get into the rest of the plots, because I think the audience will be able to understand plot A.
Wait, is that a dick sticking out of that Santa
Yeah,
Claus's?
what is that going on over there?
I think that's his belt. It's his belt. Let's get confirmation.
Yeah,
it's a belt. It's a belt.
Sure, if you say so.
Yeah, they took a little too much off the top.
Ask him about. Ask me about my cock hanging out of my underwear.
Wow.
So
Okay.
who wants to describe the plot A? Dawn's story, effectively.
Sure. Dawn's story starts, and it's apparent she's a runaway. She's hitchhiking on the side of the road, and she gets picked up by a man who's way too fucking nice to exist in real life.
Yeah.
He feeds her. He buys her new clothes. He drives her to a city that drives her to Chicago.
He's driving the wrong direction. He's heading west. The car comes behind her. They're in Wyoming. He's supposedly heading west, but he says he's going to Michigan. That makes no sense.
Yeah, that made no sense either. But
this is something I just want to point out. This is the first page of the story when we're introduced to Dawn, and she meets the friendly driver. This is something I was talking about earlier. The story opens up with 5 years ago. 5 years ago from what? Why is this? Why are we starting 5 years ago from a time that hasn't been established yet? Wouldn't you just start your story and then go 5 years later when it happens? Does anyone have an answer?
Simple Jack. Yes, you see feet right there. I assume because this is really a prologue to the actual story that was sold, but we never really get to any of the characters that were kind of sold this book.
Yeah. So she ends up in Chicago. She pickpockets the dude that was just super nice to her, and then before he drives away, she gives him back his wallet. But this act is witnessed by a gentleman by the name of Fame,
who's effectively a pimp.
Who's effectively a pimp. And then what was her name? Rita?
Yeah, which is one of his co-workers.
Which is one of his girls. And they end up helping her when she is caught pickpocketing somebody else. And takes her off to his hidden strip club den of debauchery, which has a baby in it.
The
which
baby
is called Hall of Fame, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Baby.
And there's a baby in the strip club that belongs to Rita. I'm not sure if it was Rita or Fame's kid, but either one.
You guys are missing a serious thing. The baby is actually named as well. His name is Henry. That is Rita's baby.
Yeah,
Henry,
sorry. Okay,
Henry
there were
the baby.
4 characters in the very first plot. One tangential character who turns out to be her Uncle Raymond that she sees. He's got a cookbook, and she sees the display at the airport.
Yeah, he's a famous cook.
Or wherever. The mall. I don't. He looked like he dropped.
I think it was like a bus station or something.
He drops her off at like an airport or a bus station or something for God knows what reason. But that's the very first plot line, and it ends with
the Rosa Parks Transit Center, which I assume is a real location.
God. And then that plot line ends with Fame offering her a job stealing for him because she's underage and can't turn tricks.
And it's suggested that his like pimp staff like has some powers of persuasion that are like magical or something.
Yeah. Okay, now let's go back a bit. We'll stick on the theme of Dawn, and let's talk about this double page spread. I think this is the second and third page in the book, so it's pretty early on. Moonshine, I know you have a lot to say about this. So do I.
Let me look at my notes. My comments on the notes are confusing. So confusing. Taking the long way. That's making fun of the fact they're going the wrong direction. Those were my comments.
It was confusing.
And then I took a lot of notes on what was. I was like, why does this guy quote Lao Tzu? But I said, well, it is Edwin, so I guess that's in character.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, here we have Edwin Boyette picking up a woman who quite possibly could have been a streetwalker.
A child.
And then for some reason, for no reason at all, he flashes all these $20 bills in front of her.
You're
Gives them
losing
to
the
her.
point that the first thing he says to her is a quote. And she finishes the quote. It's almost like it's a sign between the two of them. Also, why is she only 3 feet tall? Look at that picture. That's wrong perspective. She's barely above the door. Right there in the middle. I mean, I guess it is a SUV, but she's really short.
She's really teeny in the
And it makes no sense because the cop calls her 5'7", and then Rita's shoulders at her head is Rita 6.5 feet tall? Didn't make any sense. I have no idea how tall this girl is supposed to be, but I think she's supposed to be like 4 or 5 or something.
And then the one panel in the middle that has nothing to do with this story.
Yeah, what's up with the bomber guy? What's that?
So there's these 2 panels that have nothing to do with Rita and Edwin. Sorry.
There's 3. Don't forget the one on the far
Dawn
left
and Edwin.
with Akala and the twins.
Yeah, so there's 3 that have absolutely nothing to do with this story, and it was really jarring. I'm like, who the fuck are these people now?
It is. This is a mess. Like this. Like not only is the story between Dawn and Edwin. I mean, I guess not Edwin Boyette. He's called Edward Lind or Lind. Not only is that like kind of pointless and not really interesting, but then we get these 3 other panels here of these 2 guys here talking about this meeting that's going on down here, and then we cut to some suicide bomber. I guess.
Yeah.
We've got DA Talks down here, ready to take it to the take it to the man, but this doesn't occur. This doesn't come back in the story.
Yeah, and then
at all.
and just the layout itself is a hot mess. Like on the first row, you've got the 5, right? There's 5 panels, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No, you don't need to count them. It's 14 panels. I already counted.
Yeah, it was just way too much, and the angles and everything else was just really hard.
All right.
I mean, I like the car driving up to her. That's dynamic and interesting.
And the art's cool.
We focused a lot on these opening 2 pages. Now, so this girl's story, exactly how far does it progress through the entire book?
Vicky told you she joins up with Fame. That's the last page of this book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's broken up.
It's a very short story and easy to follow, unlike everything else in this book.
It's the story itself is interrupted by the other plot points, but yeah. And we're spending all that time on those pages because they're the only ones that really make sense.
Yeah.
So where does
sorry, well read.
where do these other 2 more convoluted and confusing stories pick up?
Well, this is the beginning of one of them.
Yeah, so this is a plot I say you could fix this plot and probably get it working. But it has many, many problems. Is this panel actually shows right in this middle? It says Melissa. Okay, that's who she is. You, Jim, and Abby. All these names are being thrown out. So what's happening here is the self-insert character, who's David, is essentially Antonio, is hooking up with a woman who left her husband and took her baby along with her, which is okay. It's fine, but it's it doesn't really make you feel like he's a good guy.
No, it's pretty fucked.
Well, I got this panel because it's pretty like this is when our protagonist gets introduced, our main hero, and I wrote it down. This is on page 17.
Yes.
So we read 17 pages of the backstory with Dawn. There's another little side plot involving 2 police officers who go to some warehouse and one shoots the other. There's like the main villain. He's going on a cooking show on television, and it cuts to her watching him on the cooking show, and that's how we're introduced to to
The two police officers are Rico and Amy.
I know. I wrote down all the names of these characters. It's something else. But in this middle panel, he says Melissa, you and Jim, Abby. It's like you said, we're getting names thrown at us, but I don't know if I didn't know if this woman's Melissa. Is she Abby? Who the fuck is Jim?
Jim is Jim, I believe, is probably the father of the baby that she has in the bed with her. Why David is probably crushing it right now.
It's yeah.
How many characters are introduced in this book?
I think he counted 38.
Yeah.
Did that include the bee?
Do you want to show your little flow chart, Moonshine?
Okay.
I'll stop sharing and I'll read out the characters. I'll try and do it quickly.
I may get it.
Well, I am curious though. This second storyline, does that kind of coincide with this this third one as well? I mean, how exactly are they told? In sequence,
that's all the
parallel?
characters.
Okay, so I'll come back to your question, Well-Read. So there's 38 named and mentioned characters in this book. We have Dawn, we have Edward Lint, we have Fame and Rita, we have Uncle Malcolm, we have Rico and Amy, we have Ruby, we have Anne Cowley, we have Melissa, we have David Craven, who's our protagonist, we have Abby, who's a baby, we have Penance, we have Charo, we have Vargas, we have William, we have Mr. Wayne, we have Wither, we have Jacob Moore, we have Robin, Henry, Captain Peter Richards, Guyman, Randy, Lionel, Tobias, Akala, Jade, Jin, Jezebel, Jian Yang, and then we have mentioned the Pope, Leviticus, Jim, Mr. Leeds, Chief O'Bara, Thomas, David, Dias, and his legions.
And then you have all these terms I have on the bottom right that have some significance, which are Luminous, Rain, Deus and his legions, the Judas Crown, the Knights of Orin, and the country of Simbasa.
It's like it's like a census in this book. There's so many fucking people in this
That's
book.
why I'm so confused. I only read it once. You guys have read it multiple times. So I'm like at a real disadvantage here.
Yeah, I read the PDF twice when I first got it because I finished it and I'm just like, oh, there's really, how did I not get that? Maybe I was just high and missed it, right? So I read it again. I've read the physical 3 times. The last time was this afternoon, and I still can't tell you what this book is fucking about.
No, I figured it out.
You figured it out?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, flowchart.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. It's also 8 pages of notes. I could tell you what each character does and the relationship to other characters.
Is it connected logically if you actually plot it out?
Yes.
Really? So what you're saying is Antonio is actually a genius.
You cracked the code.
I don't know if you're a genius if you try to present all your world building in one 52-page comic, but that's what he attempted to do.
Okay. Well, so can you give us a brief overview? How do these characters actually connect? Are they all
right, so let's start with
useful
David since he's the main character. So he's hooking up with this woman who's left her husband with the baby. He gets interrupted by Pinus, which is his mask, which gives him his superpowers. And they get a call from Vargas, who looks like a priest. It's kind of like a...
Hold on a second, Moonshine. I just want to let you know that David will be in the bee yard.
Yes, he's in the bee...
I did not understand why he had to go and play with the fucking bees just to talk to this guy.
Well, who calls it a bee yard? Wouldn't you say, like, darling, I'll be down with the bee hives or in the garden? What's the bee yard?
At the time, I thought Missy didn't know about his powers, but it hints
It's
that
obvious
she does.
when he leaves the house in his little outfit. Of course she knows.
Yeah, she
right?
knows. It seemed like she didn't, but she knows. So I don't know why he wants... I mean, he uses the bees in his fight, so maybe he's going to collect them. I don't know. In any case, Vargas tells them there's a situation. Jacob Moore, who we find out later is his apprentice, is missing with another hunter. We find out later is Captain Peter Richards, who's an antagonist, who's a rivalry with David. So he's going to save them. There's some auction going on with nefarious purposes. He gets into his car and the mask turns into a car. He drives somewhere for no particular reason, contacts his other apprentice, and then the mask teleports him to David, and then they both teleport to this place, which is in Louisiana.
Well,
Why he didn't just teleport
Yeah, I don't know the car.
to the apprentice in the first fucking place, I don't know.
I don't know why he got in the car. The car part makes no sense. He doesn't.
It's
even
to
drive.
make a Knight Rider joke. Come on, guys.
That was the only point of the car. That was actually the only point for him to be driving the car anyway, was for a Knight Rider joke.
Oh,
That's
also
right.
when he transforms into a superhero, he becomes a very muscular guy and is no longer fat. I forgot to mention that.
Well, that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I grabbed this. That's why I grabbed this panel, because this just was staring me in the face. So his mask is up here and speaks Ebonics, Sagdulia, Babulia, Bobbity Bibbity, and turns into a car, and then boom, Knight Rider bitch. This is a really poor form of storytelling. When you reference another pop culture thing, especially a dated pop culture reference like Knight Rider in your story, like it never ages well. So this is like rookie mistake number 2 as far as I'm concerned.
DJ
then-
says when it's better to tell one story or in World War leave people hanging. No, that's not the problem. It does leave you hanging. It should have
Every
focused on the
single-
story and not tell us every single detail about the world. There's
Every
difference
single
here.
story drops off.
All
of
the
them
plot, all the plots leave you hanging. There's nothing gets tied up in this book.
There's no closure.
For any of the characters. Yeah.
And the
So
problem is the powers of them, they just happen. You have no idea what their limits are, so none of the battles feel exciting because they easily win, and you assume they will because they seemingly can do anything with their powers.
Yeah, and the car thing is purely for the Knight Rider reference because, like you said, he teleports to the battlefield, and that's what I thought. It's like, so he's on his estate, he gets his mask to turn into a car, he drives like 5 minutes down the road where there's like presumably like the public, then they untransform, he transforms into his muscular hero self, teleports to his little sidekick's place, then teleports to the battlefield.
Not
Why
exactly.
wouldn't you just
He calls his sidekick, and then he teleports the sidekick to himself, and then they teleport. Oh wait, no, you're right. He is at the sidekick's place. I see him in the barn in one panel.
Yeah,
In any case, then they teleport to Louisiana. So he teleports from Tennessee to Arizona, and then they both teleport to Louisiana. Yep, now they're arriving in Louisiana on that scene.
So he just wanted to have a bunch of cool teleportation moments.
I mean, it's fine. They can teleport, but then why are you getting in your car? You don't need to.
Maybe he just wanted to have a little chance to talk before, he went to go pick up this apprentice guy.
But he was in the bee yard.
Is it just a dude with his car kind of thing? I mean, we all know how men like their toys.
He's posing for the honeys.
Okay. So what we missed between these two scenes is we go to his apprentice who's caught in this Louisiana place. The main villain here is Wither. The others don't really matter. They're vampires, werewolves, and magicians, and they have special artifacts, and they're auctioning them off.
And they're vampires that are out in the middle of the day.
Which is explained, at least one of them is explained later. But
yeah, he has a ring.
He's got a special ring. Yeah.
But the ring he got from Vargas's vault, so he's like, oh, someone has betrayed us. But that's later in the story. Any case, they try to look for this apprentice. Jacob, William, and David try to look for him. And then they find his staff, and then all the animals apparently try to attack him. And then it's implied that one of the witches, Wither, is controlling their minds. So that's why they have to fight these alligators and wolves.
DJ2K Comics says comic books are not allowed to be cool.
There's nothing cool about this story except for Kane White's art. Like, that's the only...
the art's great.
The art's great, but this story is just really, really bad. Like, one of the worst.
Yeah, the werewolf thing just didn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, unfortunately.
I think if you would have scaled down the fight, so like you fight a werewolf and make it seem hard and tough to fight, but when you just massacre everyone, it's not exciting.
They literally kick everybody's ass, and you're just like, okay. Except for one dude at the end.
And Wither escapes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the fight was a bit of a letdown. Like it would have been like it felt like they wasted that 2-page spread on all the panels with Dawn meeting Edwin Boyette when you could have had like a really like with Kanan White's art, you could have had a really cool double-page spread of just the carnage of this fight going on, but it just felt really like condensed.
Well, the chat brings up an important point. Yes, the werewolves just come out of nowhere. You're not expecting it. You're not nothing. It just happens. Because this guy was human for like that's the Jacob guy, I believe, right? The guy that turns into a werewolf.
No, he doesn't turn into a werewolf.
That's not Jacob? Then I'm really confused.
That's just some guy at the auction turning into a werewolf.
Oh, I thought that was Jacob. Damn it. I'm really confused. I thought he was a werewolf.
Yeah, it was like all the bitters suddenly became werewolves and they were suddenly werewolves.
Yeah, some are magicians. Like one of them at least is a vampire. They just are. He uses his bees to fight, so that's something.
It sounds like Wiggle was writing his own story while reading this to make sense out of it.
Yeah.
I did that the first time too.
I mean, this part, as I said, this could be fixed. You tighten up the fight. You don't have him mention everybody constantly. It's not the problem of just so much character. Do you have the panel where everyone starts just teleporting in out of nowhere? So they win the fight, and then Captain Peter Richards appears, and they get in. Okay, here's.
Oh, I've just got that one. I just got that one.
Anyways, Peter Richards was a raven watching the fight. David confronts him because, like, you didn't help him. Jacob could have been hurt, and you did nothing. They get into a brawl. Well, they don't get in a brawl. As so much yell at each other. Although I think he like punches him down or something. Let me see what he does. Yeah,
he knocks. He goes.
David tries to punch him, misses, and then he punches him down. And then Gaiman, who's at least the master of David, it kind of seems like he might be the master of Peter Richards too, but that's not stated explicitly. He all of a sudden just teleports in too, and he says Peter Richard has to go before the Chosen and answer for his actions.
I was also really confused as to why he turned back into Antonio, right? So the fight ends, but they're all still there. Like, shit's still happening, but suddenly he turns back into his alter ego so that he can get beaten up. It was just weird.
I mean, I guess you could say Peter Richards was waiting for him to transform back. I don't know.
But why wouldn't you do that then? Why wouldn't... You know what I mean?
Why wouldn't you go back to safety and then transform? Yes, that would make sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Any case, that pretty much ends David's story, except for he goes back home. You meet the most important and best character in the book, Randy.
Randy.
Yes. He's movied Missy's stuff in, and he tells David to talk to his brother Robert because his mom doesn't like them fighting. We never meet Robert, but this is mentioned. I have no idea if it's important or not. And that's the end of that storyline.
And then there's a third storyline, which involves the main villain organizing a marriage for his brother.
Yeah, this is the worst. This is the one that cannot be saved. This is just a mess.
But it was the marriage that he didn't want to arrange, but he's arranging it anyway. I mean,
because what the twins' father, he promised the twins' father that not his actual brother, but their fathers were friends. This guy wouldn't marry her, and now that he's marrying her, this guy will be mad. And I think his tribe will be mad, or tribe he has influence over.
I thought it was their father wanted to marry this guy's daughter.
That's true.
The old man said, no, you can't. And then he said, but the son can marry the daughter, can marry one of this guy's daughters. But
the father of the daughter, which I assume is both, because they're twins,
it made no sense.
Stop it! Stop it! Don't
doesn't
make me
make no
relive
fucking
this
sense.
fucking shit.
Dude,
Don't
look,
make me relive it.
But it's gonna,
Oh, my God.
the marriage is gonna ignite a civil war.
I don't
So,
want to
and
know.
as soon as he gets the lady, he's like, "Hey, dude, can you keep her safe for me? Let her stay with you, and you can keep her safe for me." And he's like, "What the fuck are you talking? It's too late, man. You made your choice." But
You agree with this,
what a
Wiggle?
weird action.
DJ2K Comics says, I love how this story is nothing about the story and entirely just nitpicking. I think he
You
meant
just
this
described
review.
the David story. I guess you missed it.
I mean, what do you think, Wiggle? You think this is a lot of nitpicking? Did you get a lot of story out of this?
well, there's a lot of words in it, and they're interarranged in a way, and it's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't really know what's going on. Like, I really don't. I've only read it once, though. I'm sorry.
Is it really nitpicking when you're talking about clearly an amateur writer who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, having 3 subplots with a fourth plot as well, if you include the police officer story, across 38 characters and 52 pages of book? I mean, what the fuck is going on?
It's not nitpicking when you're trying to actually explain it. Like,
because I don't know. I don't know
so
what the story is.
It is so
I really don't.
confusing. Yeah.
It feels like this is a works burger, and Antonio just took so many ingredients and just shoved it all into this burger, and this burger is just falling out of itself all onto your plate. It does. And you don't even know what's in it anymore.
Studios asked what's the story structure. It's kind of hops between the stories. They're all interlaced throughout the whole book. You start with Don, you move into the villains, and then I think we said page 17, you finally get to David, and then it sticks with David's story actually through most of it. And then
I'm sorry.
And then it'll hop back the Don and the villains a little bit, and then the David story finishes, and then it ties up the villain and then Don's story.
But none of those changes take place on actual story beats. So you're like,
it happens really abruptly, sometimes in the same page, and it'll be sprinkled in, and it's really fucking confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the David story definitely gets ended abruptly. It's like it's in the middle of the fight. You interrupt the battle for no particular reason, but that's where you break back the Dawn at that point.
Yeah.
That really confused me because that's like right in the middle of that fight, and it just like, wait, what happened? And it never goes back to it.
Yeah, it does.
Well, then I missed it. Then Jesus
you must
Christ,
have missed it. Yeah.
God,
Okay, so the total package is a mess, and you did like the simple story with the girl, but were there any good individual moments in this story? Anything that was good for the artist to be able to really draw inspiration on? Any single panel that's redeeming in this story?
Well, the art is
art's amazing.
The art is great. The art is beautiful.
I meant the staging for. I mean, I get that Kanan is talented. I mean, I think there's no question about that. Just looking at the posters, they're amazing. Was he given anything to work with from Antonio?
Well, like we said, the Dawn storyline is good. I think it's interesting enough. I think the David storyline is fine. It just needs to be cleaned up. It's a little bit too out there. It needs to focus on like what he can do rather than just give us powers and then we don't get any idea of how strong he is. We need to give him a real challenge. There's no challenge given to him.
I was laughing at that comment because here's the thing. I don't know if DJ2K realizes the Pandora's box that has been unleashed upon him. Adam Post has some books.
Adam Post has some books, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
On the villain story, this is the problem. They're the villains. You can introduce them and hint at them, but if you lay out their entire plot in the first book, that makes no sense. It's not about them. It's about the hero.
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
He should have stuck with the 2 storylines, the David storyline and the Dawn storyline. He didn't need to go in to the complicated politics of the villains cabal. You know, that wasn't necessary right now. Not for the first book.
Yeah,
in the first book, I want to know about David and maybe even why, you know, Missy, who's the love of his life that he vowed never to be with, is suddenly living in his house with her child. I mean, that might have been nice. A little explanation about that. Something that's actually about the characters. Like, there's nothing in here except for the Dawn story about the actual, like, characters. You
Yeah,
know?
there's
So,
like really there's three running plots in this, three running stories. You've got the story of Dawn, who's the transient girl getting picked up and then recruited by a pimp to be a pickpocket. You've got David's story and the hunting he does against the supernatural. Then you've got the main villain who's like organizing his plans, telling you what his plans are. Like in the first issue, organizing this marriage with his brother to some other crime syndicate. Then you've also got this tiny little subplot, which is only meant, I think it only goes for about a page, of these two police officers that investigate a warehouse of the main villain, and one ends up killing the other, and then they're never seen again in the book or referenced at all.
no, they are referenced briefly,
I
but just briefly.
I think what you say Kanan's art is really good, but what really should be applauded is he draws 38 different faces and every character looks unique. That's what's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the thing, like I have no issue with the art in this book. Like the art is fucking amazing in this book, and I'd even say the coloring is decent as well, and the lettering. Like everything in this book is great. Like the lettering, the coloring, the art, except for the story itself. Like it is honestly a bad story. It's a jumbled mess. There are too many plots. There are too many characters, and mushing all of that together into a 52-page book. Like even at 52 pages, like two, this would I guess be like just over the first two issues. It's too much. It's too much, and it conflicts with each other. It confuses the reader, and it's not enjoyable.
Now, it's not impossible to write multiple storylines in a comic, because Well Read and I just did that yesterday. It had 4 storylines, but they were well told, and they had an arc, even if they were just a few pages. This just kind of opens up questions and just ends. There's nothing really of closure except for maybe Dawn, because she joins up with Fame. So I guess she has an arc, but no one really else does. It's just events happen.
So I think what worked in Dune was that it was, like you described it, it was vignettes, and
Yeah.
each little story that was told was self-contained and just strung together. This sounds like it's interlaced. What I'm wondering is if you took out all of the words, just remove all the dialogue. I get it that the plot is shit, the words are shit in this whole book. And
The dialogue's okay. I don't think it's too bad.
The dialogue's okay. It's just in some parts you can tell. Like for example, "I'll see you, honey. I'm going off to the bee yard." I was just like, what the fuck? Who talks like that? Just say I'm going down to the hives, or I'm going into the garden. What the hell's a bee yard?
Imagine you were reading this you were writing this comic book with just the pictures. Like Wiggle, say you were flipping through this and you were just looking at all the pictures with no words. Could you make a better story out of the pictures that you were looking at than what you read in this comic?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people in this book. I don't think so, because like there's just a lot of characters. And that's the part that messes with me, is like I'm trying to get through it, and like every page I'm getting introduced to somebody new. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like I don't know who's the protagonist, or you know what I mean? Like I get who the main bad guy is, who apparently is in the pocket with the police, and that's ties into the cops or whatever. Like they find like biological agents and stuff or whatever, and that scene was pretty cool.
I think that the problem is more beyond what's written on the page. It's the basic plot itself needs to be reworked. Right. I mean, Dawn is fine. David probably can be fixed. The villains, no. That's got to be scrapped, and maybe hints here and there. Maybe show a few panels, like rather than the cop, show the villains maybe interspersed. Like, oh, what are they up to? And leave some curiosity for the reader. Build suspense rather than just tell us everything, and we're like, well, I don't care now because I don't know what this Judas crown is, and it doesn't really sound interesting either, though.
Right. And also, when I pick up a comic book, I want to be able to tell what the story is just by looking at the pictures, and you can't do that with this.
Right.
You just can't.
That's what I was getting at. How the
And
storyboarding is.
yeah, and what's really disappointing about it is how long we had to wait for this damn book, right? So we waited forever for this book because Kanan had other obligations before he could even start it, which is fine, right? So there was almost an entire year before it was even drawn. This could have been, that God, give it to an editor, give it to, have somebody else look at it. And most of this stuff could have been taken care of and fixed in the 2.5 years we waited for this book.
I only got my physical of Brand last week.
Huh.
I had to message Antonio and just be like, look, dude, what's up? Like, you've been fulfilling this for a year. I've got 2 twin packs. Do you mind sending my books? And he sent them, but it's just like this has been fulfilling for over a year now, or nearly a year, and I don't know what the heck's going on.
Interesting
I
enough,
agree.
there is a listed editor on this book.
Yeah, there actually is an editor listed on the book.
So I think that did help in the sense I didn't see any massive mistakes when I was reading through, and I've read through this a number of times. So I mean, I think at least there's no dialogue problems in terms of editing and grammar or anything like that.
That's not an editor's only job.
But I mean, if you bring them in
Right.
too late, the storyboard's already there. They're not going to change too much at that point.
But he had he had over a year before the book was even started to be drawn. Like, I mean, it's not like there wasn't time. That's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
I think he
Yeah.
probably isn't a person that would take criticism well. So
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Red said last night that he contacted Antonio about the review, and Antonio said, "I don't watch the reviews, whether they're negative or positive. How the fuck are you supposed to grow as a creator and a writer if you don't at least like, not even that you're not listen, you don't even take the criticism, you don't even listen to it, you don't even want to listen to what people are saying about your book." And I think what like Brand shows is that he really does need someone to help him and to guide him, like similar to I guess how Chuck Dixon's working with your boy Zach. Like that's a great team up. Chuck Dixon's an experienced writer. He's like a giant in the industry. Antonio, I think, just needs someone to come in and just help guide him, like just say, no, this doesn't make sense. You need to back to the drawing board.
Okay, let's save this comic a little bit. So, you did say that at least Kanan White's art was amazing. Each character is very unique. If you were writing a comic book, how many characters would you just love to steal the design from this comic book and place into yours based on Kanan White's designs?
any one of them would be good to add into anything.
Yeah,
Except for the self-insert.
yeah.
I mean, who doesn't want Randy in their comic?
Like this character looks fucking amazing, and I remember the reason I backed Brand when it was first being advertised was because of the promo pinup. And Matthew Fowler raised a good point earlier in the chat. His comments, I guess, too far gone now. It's the evil Santa and this ninja character both look incredible, and this fight looks amazing. Like this image is what sold me on Brand and why I backed it.
It's not there.
But the evil Santa, he's not even in the book, and the
Nope.
ninja appears for I think like maybe like 5 or 6 panels, and then just disappears and does
Yeah.
nothing.
Well,
So it's like yeah.
I have a review for the book rather than just summarizing it. This is a comic book as if you entered a random soap opera episode and just started watching it. This is exactly how this book is formatted. This feels like a
Yeah.
book written by someone who watches soap operas.
I bet you watches General Hospital.
Because it's just event after event, characters that may tangentially be tied together, but mostly are not. It's like it tries to pack a lot of information right away, and it's fine. Like if this was book 50, maybe this would make sense, but since it's book 1, a lot of it doesn't make sense unless you read it over and over again. Now, there's some things about careful reading, which I mentioned about Soul Finder, which is fun, But in this, it's not fun. You have to friggin' take notes to figure out what actually is happening, and you shouldn't have to do that for a comic book.
I can't believe that the Santa is not even in the book. That's
I think he's on page 1 of the second book. But
I'm shocked to hear that. Do you have a picture of this Death Shroud character? Is that also in this book?
that's Gaiman. We saw it.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we did all we could. Yeah, let's not spoil it too much, but maybe let's try moving on to Brutus and seeing if it's possible that might have been a worse book. I don't know if this is a really low bar that we're setting.
I got my own problems with Brutus.
Okay, great.
Well, this should be interesting because I have an opinion on Brutus that I think will surprise most people.
Okay. So, do we have an image that we'd like to bring up?
I am bringing up Brutus right now.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, everybody's mentioning that everybody else is streaming right now. That's interesting. Thursday's obviously a good night to stream. So.
Oh no, the Phantom Rejects are imploding.
Drama.
Yeah. Big drama.
Of course. Okay, so here we have Brutus the Badass, other book that's incredibly late, and also has a bit of a history associated with it. So, Peeg, why don't you start us off? What was your issue that you wanted to bring up with Brutus? Your opinion, sorry, that you thought would surprise everybody.
I actually really enjoyed Brutus. I really enjoyed it. I got the PDF for Brutus. I want to say quite some time ago. I think probably last year sometime. Donald sent out the PDFs. I still haven't received my physical copy, but Donald is actually. I'll give Donald credit here. Like, he cops a lot of flack for how late Brutus is, but in the updates he is transparent. So his most recent update, he talks about how all the US domestic packages have gone out, and the double packs will be next, and international's getting saved for last, and he's doing what he can to get it out. I think that's a lot better, and it generates a lot of goodwill to the backers to just be open and transparent with any issues you're having with fulfillment, as opposed to guys like Andrew Horta, who have just, as far as I'm concerned, completely go radio silent. But actually, yeah, I liked Brutus. I thought it was a fun read.
Wiggle, you said you had issues with it?
Oh, my issue with it is like it is a fun read, but it's like you have like two characters that break the wall annoy me.
You broke up there. Could you repeat that?
Oh, you had two characters in it at least that break the fourth wall as humor. And there's just kind of I don't know. I guess if you're looking for nonsense, then it's definitely Brutus the Badass.
I thought it was a fun read, but it was high on the silly scale, like Wiggle said. You know, the way he talked, and interestingly enough, it was the stuff that Donald added to the script, because Nasser had actually released the script that he gave to Donald on the book, and so the stuff that Donald added was just like beyond childish stupid, you know.
Yeah, it's like really childish humor, which is whatever. Sure looks cool though.
The art was okay. It could have used, once again, it's another one of those books that really needed a fucking editor. There's a scene, like there's a panel where the villainess, you know, she's wandering around in these chaps, right? She's got like these like assless chaps that she's wandering around in, and then the next panel, the chaps were pants, and then the next panel after that they were chaps again, and the one with the pants was a full page spread, and I was just like, okay, how did somebody notice that she's suddenly she's been half naked this entire time, and now she's got pants? You know, so just little things like that. His origin story was really silly though, like beyond, didn't really make much sense.
Yeah, why don't we describe this origin story?
Yeah,
it's very bizarre. So essentially, there's a mad scientist, and then we say, oh, this is just TV. And then there's a guy watching this who looks exactly the same as this mad scientist. Then there's a package delivered to this man watching. And he says, "Are you ligama nuts?" Yeah, that's a pun. And he just stands there and gets the package. He throws it on the ground. The guy on the TV tells him not to do that. He says, "You made a grave mistake." He falls asleep, and then he trips on the package and kills himself. And then there's just a box saying, "Whoever found his body, stole this." But eventually, this package arrived in Ligamut's. And then he's essentially a mad scientist making something with these capsules. He likes eating Cheetos, so the Cheetos accidentally get into an experiment, and then Brutus is created. And then there's a montage of him changing his hairstyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how Brutus would origin.
Well, the whole joke is that he has a really lame origin story, and the robot thing that got pregnant with a sex bot, or the child of a sex bot that died in labor.
See, the silliness didn't really bother me because it was silly and consistent the whole way throughout the book, and
the tone is pretty consistent.
And it knows it's being silly too because it's constantly winking at the audience. I mean, there's a scene where he defeats the villainess, and then she comes back, and he says, "Oh, you're back," and she says something along the lines of, "Well, you didn't expect me to get defeated on page 29, do you?" And that was page 29 of the book. And I don't know. I just thought it is silly, but at the same time, it's kind of clever, and it's completely different to anything else I've backed before.
I would say if this feels like if you saw a strange indie book on the cover with cartoonish graphics, that this is a standard kind of indie book. It knows exactly what it is. It's a very strange style. You may like it, you may not like it. But it is exactly what it's intending to be.
Yeah, I like this. I like the style of the art.
It's since we reviewed a Donald drawn book before, this style suits him much better. There's nothing that looks off like sometimes it did in Vestige. Everything looks pretty good.
I agree 100%. I was actually pretty rough on Donald during our Vestige review because I just feel like his art style didn't work for the story it was trying to convey. I still gave him positive points, like his backgrounds in the city of London in Vestige looked great, but it was just some of the faces didn't translate really well in Vestige. But in this, he's in his element here, in his prime. Like this is great. I thought the art of Brutus was really
definitely.
great.
I know exactly what the story is. He's like kind of like a bounty hunter, but he's wanted himself though. So.
Oh yeah, I guess we should tell. Did you guys tell them what the story is?
No, we just dived into it.
So Brutus is a bounty hunter. It opens with him chasing a bounty, so he captures him obviously, and it turns out he's returning him to an arena fight. So that's why this guy tried to escape, but he doesn't really get care. He gets underpaid, and he leaves because he's threatened if he doesn't take the money. So then he's just because of that fight, he dropped a cigar. And there's this woman that's tracking him. So he's sitting in a bar. There's a backstory of Gideon, which is his sidekick robot thing. There's a
forgot about the GIMP.
Yeah, the woman has a GIMP suit creature with her.
GIMP lives matter.
Yeah. So we get the backstory of his companion robot, and then they're attacked. There's a battle. That's kind of the middle section of it. It's crazy and silly and it's a little bloody. But then when he wins and walks away, the police arrest him because she's like, "I know you have a bounty too." And so then they get arrested, and then the end of his story is him trying to escape the prison. It's comedic throughout the whole thing. Nothing is ever taken very seriously.
And that's when Cecil gets kicked in the face.
Oh yeah, there's a part where Cecil gets eviscerated. This is the second evisceration
I think I have that panel, but I just wanted to say, when you guys were bringing up the silliness, there was only one bit of silliness I don't think really worked that well. So when he drops the cigar, you'll notice there's a little arrow there saying "important," pointing at the cigar. And then this is used a fair bit quite early in the story and then just completely disappears. So here we have him about to arrest the perp at the beginning of the book, and there's an arrow pointing to his handcuffs, telling you these are handcuffs. And then I think the third example that I got was when the villainess who's tracking him finds the cigar and then licks it, and there's an arrow pointing saying that's gross. This is used like early on in the book and then just completely disappears later on. I'd just say like we didn't need these arrows. That's a small little critique, I guess, on the silly nature of the book that I don't think worked.
Or just commit to the bit, right? One or the other.
Yeah, I would also say, I don't know if you have any panels. It's like sometimes the panel design is interesting. Like he'll come out of the panel and overlap, and there'll be funny little insets and panels, and then all of a sudden it'll get really kind of boring and just panel, white gutter, panel.
Hey, here's a little detail. I don't know if you guys noticed, but do you see what's on his boot? The name?
Biz?
Yeah. That's the bar he's in later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
There's a lot of little details in here. Like the backgrounds are just full of stuff that you can look at and are kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's one background you can see the Bigfoot Bill has been arrested and is walking in the background. There's like movie posters or band posters just kind of randomly placed sometimes, which I assume are real bands. I'm not certain. Motorhead,
This was,
that's not a band.
This panel here was the panel where I just like where it kind of dawned upon me that I'm actually really starting to like this book, and I like the character of Brutus. So he's got his perp, he's coming to get paid, and then he just boots in the fucking door like a boss. Just doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, boom, here's your guy. But the character of Brutus is, I think, he's what drives the story, and I think it is a really character-focused story because he's bombastic. He's got a crazy hairstyle. He wears sunglasses and leather. He's smoking cigars. He's got his little wisecracking sidekick.
Did you try to read all the badges on his lapel?
I found myself zooming in on because I tried looking for any Easter eggs in the book, but yeah, I did notice. I think it was "I love guns and boobies" was a badge or something like that.
Yeah, one of them is if you can read this, get on your knees.
I think the one page that really, I guess, if we're going to criticize anything about the art again, the one page that really stood out to me was this splash. It is a splash page, isn't it? The single page. It just felt empty. This whole bottom half here, it just felt like it wasn't used.
It's kind of a shame because there's the dual page spread, and like if you look, it's like they're not drawn out in detail, but like every single person's an individual, and there's like 100 different people. That I don't know if you have that. That's like
it's the page.
This page.
Yeah, it's the page before.
That was well done. Whereas this is kind of just boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little schizophrenic that way. But overall, people shit on Nasser all the time, but I think he did a really great job writing this. And for what he had, for what he was given, and he put out a good little solid book. As far as
I like another I guess praise of Donald's art too is this is where he's in the bar getting the backstory from his robot Gideon.
Yeah, this is funny.
Yeah, and I like it's almost like a cartoon when it goes all wavy, like when it's about to flash. Yeah, when it's about to flash back. I don't know if Donald used like something to edit this to make it look like that way, or if he actually drew this way. But it looks really great, and I thought it was a great design choice.
Yeah,
and he runs with this bit because the story gets interrupted, and he's like, "Oh no, don't go back," and then it does the wavy thing again.
Yeah,
like poisoned his friends or his siblings or whatever.
He intended to poison himself, but he accidentally poisoned 12 other cups.
Let's see Cecil get.
Oh, there's Cecil eviscerated.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Chad, do you prefer?
Matt says it's a Photoshop filter.
Oh, okay.
Does the chat prefer Cecil being eviscerated or a cat being eviscerated?
Cecil.
What's the difference? Yeah.
Now, if Cash Grab looks like this, that's going to probably be a good book.
I'm waiting on it. I did back that. So
Yeah, it's pretty gory. It's silly, but then all of a sudden you'll get things like
Yeah.
this with just things and pieces of humans flying everywhere.
yeah, leave the cats alone. Unless they're in Australia. You guys have
Demented
some
says he
problems.
has to see Nasser's script before he gives him any credit.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about how actually. Well, I mean, did you guys have a chance to compare the two, the book and Nasser's script? Because you mentioned that Donald added a bunch of childish jokes, but how good was Nasser's original version of this story without those?
It's pretty much the exact same thing without the without like some of the like snapper head shit trying to make him sound like Donald, and he tried Donald tried really hard to make Brutus sound like Donald DeLay, and that's the only real difference. I may still have it on my machine. If I do, I'll let people know I'll put it somewhere and let people know where they can find it.
But was the humor like a missing component that was needed, even if Donald didn't succeed in being funny? I mean, did it need something?
No, Nasser actually wrote funny.
Nasser was funny?
I haven't read the NASA script. So what you're saying is, Vicky, is you want them to release the Rabadi cut.
Body cut.
Body cut, yeah. Exactly.
So, according to Demented for Fun, Cash Grab is done. It's the Dirt Worm book that's behind.
And
No idea.
He also thinks you have a bias. I don't know why. He doesn't trust your opinion.
I mean, Vicky kind of doesn't like Nasser either, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, Vicky's reviewed books on this show before and been very fair. I trust her to make a fair decision.
I do separate the art and the artist when I talk about their books. When I read them at home, so.
What stands out to me, like we could talk about the difference between Donald's pencils and Kanan's, but I feel like the paneling here just has way more room to breathe. And
that particular one is Andrew Horta, I think.
That's where.
Yeah, this is a short story at the end of getting his little robo pal back.
I
that's
Huerta. I don't feel like the art is stacked so strongly on one on top of the other, and you actually get a chance to see details and large set pieces that are nice.
Yeah, Donald didn't. It wasn't all real tight. It was nice. Kind of a lot more cinematic. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, this is just a short story at the end of a crossover between Brutus and Sovereign.
Yeah, I saved this panel because I actually like it when you get to see different artists' take on the character. So we just saw Brutus drawn by Donald, and here he is drawn by Andrew Huerta. I always find it interesting to see like different artists' takes on the characters. So I thought I'd just pop this in if you guys wanted to talk about the short story as well. I mean, there isn't really much there. It's just 5 pages, and it's left to be continued. But
those 5 pages are mostly about Huerta's art. Which I'm not a huge fan of personally. So, but it was all right.
It
was the better of the 2 books.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Well, do you have any questions, Well-Read, on Brutus, or do you want to get to the ratings? I mean, feel free to rein us in a little bit. We're kind of trampling all over your turf.
No, it's fine. So I guess for a comparison, I don't think there's any point in getting into the story. Brutus clearly is a story that was written well for the kind of story it was trying to tell, whereas Brand wasn't.
I would say, in general, I would have preferred the Brand story. It just didn't quite succeed at what it was trying to get across, I don't think.
Velnet said Donald's is more alive. Kanan's is more static, like EVS's Marvel stuff. So, yeah, let's not say which artist we prefer.
They're just.
That's not what I was saying.
I
was talking about the books in general.
No, I'm not talking about anyone. I'm trying to I'm trying to frame my question by saying, let's not focus on which artist in particular we prefer. Let's talk about which artist executed the story that they were drawing most effectively. So, like, did Kanan do a good job telling the story Brand or drawing it, and did Donald do a good job telling his story Brutus in his art? Does that make sense, the way I framed that?
Well, I think in Donald's case, the story is exactly as he intended it to be. I think, and the audience will understand what he wants them to understand. And I think he succeeded very well at that.
Yeah.
And Kanan, did he succeed at what he was doing with Brand?
I think based on what he had to work with, he did. Unfortunately, what he had to work with was not great.
Yeah, there's
If that
what
makes
you
sense.
see drawn is usually not confusing. It's more of the text and what the plotting is that's confusing. I mean, yeah, there's no scene that's really confusing about what's going on if you look at it. You might
all the
not know
dialogue.
what's going on, though, because the story didn't explain it to you, though.
Yeah.
Velman made an interesting point. She said Donald's is more alive, and Kanan is more static. So was his static art, I guess, the best suited for the Brand story?
Well, there is a lot of talking in Brand, so...
Yeah. The fight scenes were good. I mean, there was a lot of movement. They needed more space on the page, but what you got there was very action packed and fluid. So, but there is just a lot of people standing around talking in Brand. So that doesn't lend itself to a whole lot of movement in the art.
So would you say it's not possible to compare the two books in terms of their artists?
Oh no, I wouldn't compare the two.
Uh,
They're two different. They're pretty radically different styles. I mean,
I would
I
say
don't
they're
know.
both very good at making unique characters. I mean, they
Yeah.
use different
Yeah.
methods. Obviously, Kanan's trying to draw people that are just humans, and Donald just is drawing a bunch of crazy stuff. But everything looks unique in both cases.
yeah.
Whose art added more to the story?
Well, Brutus started out with a sensible story. Well, I mean, it's a nutty story, but it's understandable. Kanan kind of had to do a lot of heavy lifting, I would say. He had the harder job, to tell the story with what was being presented, since the plotting was confusing. So to get any thought out of it, probably Kanan had to do a better job just because of the task.
I'd say Kanan White is almost wasted on Brand.
Well,
Like,
and did he succeed at the task set in front of him?
Well, if it was to somehow make the story understandable, no, but I don't think that was physically possible.
Yeah, I think Kanan did the best he could, and the art in Brand is fantastic. Like, Gaiman looks great. Like, all the characters and transformations look great. Like, the coloring of the magic battle looks great. It's just the story itself is just it's a mess. There's nothing Kanan could do with the art to fix it. The issue is the story itself.
I would say Kanan's probably the best I've seen where someone's like, use this person's face in the story. It usually always looks kind of weird. Kanan's really good at drawing Edwin. I'll give him that. Edwin's face looks good. It doesn't look goofy like it's a picture that he was facing the wrong way, but didn't quite fit in the story. It looks like natural, what the faces Edwin makes throughout his brief moment in the story. I don't know if anybody else's face was based on anyone else. I don't know.
He's a competent artist. Like, I'm not denying it, but did he really take advantage of the material that he had as much as he possibly could? Sure, he can draw nice things, but can he make even mundane and ordinary things interesting? Could you give Todd McFarlane the Brand script and get a better product than what you got from Kanan?
No.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, yeah, it's deeper than just per panel. There needs to be a whole story rewrite.
Yeah, I think the concept of brand like is interesting. I think the idea of brand is interesting, and
Yeah.
but it's
The
just
basic idea it sounds interesting. It sounds really interesting.
yeah, but it's just executed terribly. Probably the worst execution of any book I've ever read.
Now, I will say though, it's executed poorly, but at least he wanted to tell a story. You can tell there's something he really cares about. Because Wiggle and I have read a book where I don't think there was a story. It's just a bunch of crap thrown at you and pretending to be a comic book. This is trying. It's trying hard.
It really
It
is
didn't
trying
quite
hard.
succeed.
So I would still say Sea Dog is worse than Brand.
Yeah, Sea Dog, snake oil.
It really is. At least, you know, Brand is. I can't even compare those two because Brand is a comic book and it's really trying hard and the art is really good. It's just damn.
As Vicky said, it needed an editor way back in the plotting stage. Someone just really to tell Antonio, no, this doesn't make sense. Do it again and come back to me.
Yeah.
But you also feel like Donald didn't have as large a task, but still performed adequately.
I think he did more than adequately.
Yeah, I'd say when comparing the concepts of both Brand and Brutus, Donald's book succeeds at what it's trying to do far more than Brand. It's executed rather well. I mean, it's a bombastic guy, a bounty hunter, going around kicking ass, taking names, smoking cigars, not giving a fuck, and it works. It works.
Yeah,
it works.
As I was trying to say earlier, this definitely could just be in your comic book store in the indie section, and it would just, if for this type of book, it'd be just as good as anything you'd find in a comic book store, being an indie kind of cartoony book.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, do we want to? Is it worth trying to still state explicitly who we think wins between these two?
We're getting to the verdict, well read. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
it's time.
Do you want us to give the artist the win or just overall?
I don't think it's fair to compare story because it's pretty clear where these two, where these two are not on equal footing. But where they are on equal footing is they both had very competent artists.
I think Kanan is better just because sometimes Donald gets a little lazy in a scene and it's not that interesting. I mean, I guess sometimes the panel placement of both books is a little duller than it probably needs to be. There could have been some more work, but I think that's a wash between the two of them. But I think in the individual panels, just everything Kanan draws looks interesting and fun, or at least something you want to look at. Sometimes Donald's art's a little duller, but I mean, there's a lot of good panels. There's just not every single panel.
Does anyone else have a contrasting opinion, or pretty much all in agreement?
I'd agree. Like, if you're asking me whose art do I prefer, like, obviously it'd be Kanan's, just because I'm not the biggest fan of cartoony artwork. Like, so Kanan's style, I think, just appeals to me more. But there was nothing inherently wrong with Brutus. I actually think Brutus was a really strong showing for Donald's art.
Yeah.
A lot better than Vestige, #1, in my opinion. It worked. It suited this type of story really well.
Wiggle, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. I'm still struggling because I barely understood what Brand was about, but I enjoyed that.
But I really like Brutus.
I like Brutus, though. The only thing that irked me about Brutus is there was the whole fourth wall breaking cliche with multiple characters, which that's just a nitpick of mine, and just not a fan of that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think Brand had better art, but Brutus fit well. Like but they were both really good art. It's just, man.
So we're
yeah.
going to give.
We'll save the best for last. Vicky, what was your take on it?
Exactly the same. I totally agree with Matthew Fowler over there. That the art would go to Brand, but Brutus was definitely overall a better book.
Yeah.
Are we giving scores? Would you like to give a score, Vicky, for each book? I know I would.
Okay, yeah. I'll do my best. Would you like to go first?
I would give Brand a painful 4 out of 10. And Brutus a 6 out of 10. Yeah. I recommend it, but I would definitely, if that's your kind of thing, I would definitely recommend it. I thought it was fun, but it wasn't fabulous.
Peeg, did you give a score?
No, but Brand gets a 3. 3 out of 10.
So
Would
it's
never
as
read
bad
or
as
back
God,
again.
now I feel generous.
Well,
Damn.
here's the thing. I would actually prefer to read Pandemic because Pandemic is only 22 pages and Brand is like 52.
Yes.
So Pandemic does have that going for it. But yeah, all 3 of those points go to Kanan White. Like his art is fantastic. Everyone's doing their job competently with that book except for Antonio.
Yeah.
It's-
My 4 out of 10, I'll go to Kanan White. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those 3s belong to you, Kanan. And Brutus, I'd say probably around a 6.5, maybe a 7. I mean, it's definitely a recommend if you like fun, dumb, bombastic, like not really superhero stuff, but just something fun. Just ass
It's just
kicking all the
action.
way.
It's an action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost as good as Xenotype?
Well, that's why I give it a 6.5 because I do enjoy my Xenotype, and that got a 7. So I think yes, a 6.5 for Brutus. But I could understand if people really enjoy that book. I enjoyed it. Anything over a 5 for me is a definite recommend.
Moonshine?
I don't really have anything more to say about these books.
Which let's pick your brain a bit, Moonshine. So, because you don't like giving ratings, how did Brand and Brutus compare to, say, Vestige and Carmen America?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I've ascended. I understand Brand, so I really can't talk to you, lesser beings.
So Antonio is a genius?
He makes people geniuses.
How about you, Wiggle? Did you have scores you wanted to allocate? I think you do it in testy legs was the last time you were on.
Yeah, I did in Testy Legs. I think I did, yeah. Let's see, I'll give Brand, I don't know, 2.5 beehives out of 21 beehives. And
Oof.
Brutus, I'll give that one like, I don't know, like 8 vials of super serum out of 10 super serums. So
Wow.
And
I really enjoyed Brutus. I did. I liked it a lot. I did enjoy that book.
I could see
So-
Wiggle as Brutus.
But in a pink gorilla suit,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I think
Like
I think that should be a crossover. That'd be great.
Yeah, just tearing shit up. That'd be fun. But no, I did enjoy that book. I enjoyed Brutus. I'm a simple man.
I think that's the best thing. I'm a simple man. That describes Brutus to a T.
What did you
Yeah.
think of the jokes? Were they your cup of tea?
They're a little bit juvenile, but it wasn't anything that made me like, oh, this is fucking retarded. You know, it wasn't that bad.
Did you understand Brutus's motivation to see his parents?
I missed that part of the book. I must not have got those pages. Wait, is that a
that
Bigfoot
may
bill?
have been an
Yeah.
inside joke on the show.
Yeah,
yeah, Bigfoot Bill reference.
I would back it. I would back Brutus again if it didn't include all the drama. If I knew Nasser was going to get paid, and if I knew it wasn't going to take 2 years to get to me.
Yeah, I'd back Brutus again too. If it just that wait time got cut down a little bit.
Yeah,